a really good sense to be able to remember key number sequences and key things that would happen. And once you demonstrated it to somebody that was illiterate, they would fly. Now, what we found is when they actually go into the village phone operators, the VPOs, they wouldn't actually claim that they were illiterate, obviously. They didn't want to make this known. So what they would tend to do is go into the VPOs and use the phone as if they knew what was happening and pretend to sort of, read the menus and what was going on. And they'd either remember the sequence or they'd know that a certain menu is longer than another menu, and that's the menu that they had to touch. But over 80% of the people that we interviewed in one of the studies that we did with over 1,000 people, they preferred text menus to voice. And I think it was less than 7% actually wanted voice menus in the end. And about 0.5% owned up that they would actually ask the VPO to do it for them. Yeah? They wanted to look after themselves and be able to do it. You mentioned in your first question about government organizations, and then you went on to talk about how do we look after developing communities in the USA, for example. In terms of the first question, in terms of regulatory bodies, we only get involved on the fringe of what happens in terms of regulations, because we're actually working with the mobile phone operators, and it's them that own the licenses to operate the mobile networks. We get a little bit involved in tax issues sometimes, because typically SIM cards themselves can be taxed. I mean, for example, in Bangladesh, a SIM card's taxed at $7 per SIM. It costs you $14 to buy a SIM card in Bangladesh. 7 for the SIM and 7 for the tax. So it's a huge expense just for a little SIM card. So we get involved sometimes with taxing issues, but not in terms of regulatory issues, in terms of actually operating the systems. In terms of impact on USA, we're not doing any work specifically on USA in terms of developing market with our cloud phone services at the moment. I don't know if Cal, do you want to answer that part of the question?
Well, actually, our organization doesn't work in the U.S., basically, other than educating people in the U.S. on the issues of poverty overseas and how their voting and their consumption patterns affect those problems. We have a sister organization called Catholic Charities that does work inside the organization. But I did want to talk about the government connection, because, and particularly in the HIV and AIDS area, that we found that working with local governments is increasingly important, and a lot of our work has moved towards strengthening local health institutions, moving forward. So we have we're finding that government partnerships are becoming more important, especially